Well guys, I almost did it. I almost went an entire trade video without mentioning the Boston Celtics, who of course have 1,000,005 assets and are in every single trade rumor with any significant player. But with the three players that we're going to be talking about today, which you saw in the thumbnail so you know who's coming, and the Celtics are not one of the teams that I mentioned with any of the three players. So I was really close to not mentioning the Boston Celtics in a trade video, but unfortunately I put them in the intro. Regardless of that fact, we do have three established NBA players who have been in a lot of trade rumors recently. So I want to talk about them, potential places they could end up and all that good stuff. Now first one is Nerlens Noel of the Philadelphia 76ers, who I was a big fan of and I still am, but the fact that he doesn't have the flat top anymore definitely hurts me inside a little bit. Nerlens is a defensive beast. He's in the same vein of DeAndre Jordan with his athleticism, which allows him to move around the floor very well, defend the pick and roll, be able to go side to side, lateral movement, all that stuff. Provides help defense as well. He's also a damn good rim protector, and from an offensive standpoint, while I don't expect him to ever be a real scorer, he can definitely catch a lob and finish at the rim pretty effectively. But, of course, we know the 76er situation. Joel Embiid has 76er fans jumping out of their seats, and it seems like he is the center. And then we've also got Jahlil Okafor, who is a low-post threat. And based on the rumors I've been hearing, as well as Nerlens Noel's impending restricted free agency, Nerlens is probably going to be out. And the first team that I think could be a real trade destination for him is the New Orleans Pelicans. And I'll admit to you, part of this is just the NBA nerd in me really wants to see Nerlens Noel and Anthony Davis on the same team. The NBA gods almost gave it to us when the Pelicans initially drafted Nerlens and then they traded him for Drew Holiday, and I'm going to call that the flat top curse, because ever since then, Drew's had injury problems, Omer Asik's fallen off a cliff, Eric Gordon sucked. The Pelicans haven't been the same, but you put Nerlens and Anthony Davis on the same front court, they're impossible to score on. Because both of these guys can move around the floor very well with their speed and their quickness, and they can both defend multiple positions, but also the friggin' shot blocking, man. Good luck going into the paint on those two. No one's ever going to score with those two patrolling the inside. They're both pick and roll threats as well, and interestingly enough with the Pelicans, they have quite a few guys who can play that role for them. There's Tim Frazier, who's emerged as a point guard who could run the pick and roll with both Nerlens Noel as well as Anthony Davis. Once Tyreke Evans comes back, he has the ability to put the ball on the floor. And, hopefully Drew Holiday, given his family situation, good luck to him in that, he can also run that sort of offense as well. So you open up a lot of good things with these two. Now, what would the Pelicans trade to the Sixers? Well, there is Buddy Hield. And Buddy, in my opinion, can be a very good shooter in the NBA and probably a really damn good scorer as well. And when we look at the 76ers roster at the moment, they need guards. But Buddy seems like he can be a real difference maker, and he can be a guy who can stretch the floor for Ben Simmons when he's driving inside and he needs somebody to kick out to. But also, if Joel Embiid is killing you in the post and you got to double team him, Buddy can make an impact there as well. Now for the Pelicans, the question would be, would you really want to trade a young promising player for Nerlens? Well, in my opinion, look, you got Anthony Davis, who's one of the best players in the league. And if you paired him up with Nerlens, you really could be one of the best defensive teams in the league just with those two. Plus, when you look at the Pelicans' other guard options, for one, there's Quincy Pondexter, who seems like a 3-and-D player once he gets back from injury. There's Solomon Hill, who's a nice defensive player who showed some three-point life last season. Hopefully he can keep it up. There's also Etuan Moore, who had some nice moments for the Chicago Bulls last year. Does Buddy Hield have more potential than all these guys? Probably, but if at least one of these guys can be decent enough for you at the shooting guard spot, while still having Nerlens and Anthony Davis, that could be the way to go. Now, if someone wants to say, well, couldn't you just throw a bunch of money at Nerlens Noel in restricted free agency? Yeah, but do you really want to compete with every single other team looking to acquire him, or do you want to get him right now? So that's an idea with the Pelicans. The other one is the Phoenix Suns. Devin Booker is the guy. He needs to be the star player of that team, which means it opens up the trade fronts for one Eric Bledsoe at point guard, who is a damn good player. He has an ability to drive inside, make an impact, be someone who can kick out to shooters, dump off to big men. He's very physically imposing as a guard. However, he's had a lot of injury trouble, and perhaps Phoenix would want to say, listen man, we don't want to run the risk of you missing half a season again. You could also send Brandon Knight over to the 76ers. I think he could also be the shooter that the Sixers could use at the 2-guard spot. And then you could have Eric Bledsoe and Nerlens Noel doing all types of cool stuff. But again, there is always the risk of an Eric Bledsoe injury. Phoenix has to free up space. That might be the way to do it. Next up, we have Ricky Rubio of the Minnesota Timberwolves, who is a playmaking extraordinaire with his ability to find open teammates, hit him with a pass, and probably end up on SportsCenter at the same time. However, there have been rumors about him being traded with the recent drafting of Chris Dunn, who seems like the real deal as a point guard, and if he really takes off under Tom Thibodeau, who actually has given him some minutes, which is interesting because Thibodeau normally doesn't do that for rookies, then Rubio could be out. And if we're looking at a team that could really use a playmaking point guard who can also instill some more life into the team, as well as be a really good defender, because that's an underrated part of Rubio's game, in my opinion at least, it would be the San Antonio Spurs. Listen, I love Tony Parker. He's a good dude. But holy hell, that guy has lost a step and a half. His ability to turn the corner is just not what it once was. And you want to know what he's averaging in the season so far? He's averaging 5 points and 3 assists. So yeah, he's meant to be a backup at this point. If you get Ricky Rubio in there with San Antonio, all the stuff you used to run with Tony, the pick and rolls, getting him inside and then being able to kick out to guys, or just being a guy who's sort of in the natural flow of that San Antonio offense, Rubio would be great. Imagine the pick and pops to LaMarcus Aldridge. Kawhi Leonard would be able to play off ball a little bit more. Now, how would this trade actually happen? Well, Danny Green was actually kind of disappointing last season for the Spurs as a shooter. I could see Danny Green for Ricky Rubio. It gives the T-Wolves a shooter as well as a veteran to come off the bench, or perhaps start over Zach LaVine, and then Rubio can do his thing. And then also for the Spurs, we have to remember that Jonathan Simmons, who was the hero of the Golden State game, has shown an ability as a defender, an athlete, as well as a three-point shooter. He could step in at the 2-guard spot and probably be okay. Or you could just have him be in the move for Ricky Rubio. He's also a veteran that the T-Wolves could take on. There's also Kyle Anderson, who is a ball handler. He's slow-mo. I mean, he's not very quick on his feet, but he has shown some real basketball skill with his height. That's if the T-Wolves would want to go with a younger direction, but I really like the idea of Danny Green and Ricky Rubio. I think it could help out both teams. And again, it would actually give the Spurs a defensive presence at their point guard position that Tony just can't give him at the moment. And then finally, our last name, it's Rudy Gay. Rudy has already said that he is not happy with the Sacramento Kings. He doesn't like the inconsistencies, and he's already said he's not coming back. And I think Rudy definitely has some value as an offensive player. He is an efficient scorer. He is a bit tough to coach, though, because he likes his isolations. He's not great from outside, but he's not a natural playmaker, so your offense can become kind of bogged down. I think a good coach could learn how to use him correctly, have him cutting inside, putting him in the proper sets to where he's not hurting your team. And I think one of those coaches could be Tom Thibodeau. What about a Ricky Rubio for Rudy Gay trade? Let's think about this for a moment, okay? The Sacramento Kings need a jolt of electricity. They need a jolt of fun. They also need a point guard who can just get everybody the ball. They also just need good players. And I think having Ricky Rubio potentially being your starting point guard ahead of Darren Collison, or even behind Collison if you want, it could really help them out, because to have a guy at the point guard position who can constantly be actually decent, I think it could do a lot of good things for the Kings, as well as DeMarcus Cousins, who definitely needs some uplifting. And then when you look at it for the T-Wolves side, Rudy Gay is a veteran. He's also a talented scorer, again, who I feel could actually play off of Karl Anthony Towns pretty well, in the sense of, like, he's smart. He knows, like, when to cut to the basket, and I think Tom Thibodeau's the type of coach who could put him in a spot where it would actually make sense. I mean, you could roll with a lineup of times of perhaps Chris Dunn, LaVine, Rudy Gay, Wiggins at the 4, or Rudy Gay at the 4, Towns at the 5. I think there's some life there with that sort of a lineup. I think that trade could definitely help both teams. It gives the T-Wolves another quality player who, and then for the Kings, it gives them 2 point guards who can run pick and rolls with DeMarcus Cousins all day long. Some more excitement, which they could always use. And I think it could help them both out. So there you go. 3 guys. Nerlens Noel. I think he could make an impact on... Who the hell were the teams I said? The Pelicans or the Phoenix Suns? Rudy Gay and Ricky Rubio could help out some other teams, and I already don't remember who they were. And thank you for watching.